Trial version. Trial version. Trial version.
Give me a moment.
Trial version. Trial version.
Okay, guys, can you see the? Could you have access to the
Trial
link?
version.
Could you please confirm
version.
whether you could have access to the link or not?
I can't have access, teacher. It's just like
Trial
Esperando
version.
Mix, 16 de junio 2014, but doesn't appear. I don't know if it's
Okay, give me a moment,
Trial version.
please. Just to solve it out. There you go.
Trial version. Trial version. Trial version. Trial version.
Nobody could have access?
Trial version.
Okay, so give me a moment.
No, teacher.
Trial version.
I don't let me see the file.
Trial version. Trial version.
Okay,
Trial version.
I already changed that. So, give me a moment.
Trial version. Trial version.
Okay. There you
Trial
go.
version.
So I think that you can have access in that link. Please go there and I will see you there.
Trial version. Trial version.
Okay, we are going to wait a moment so the other students can connect. By now, I have just only okay. Give me
Trial
a
version.
moment.
Trial version.
Okay, by now we have just
Trial version.
Teacher, could you please send me the link again, please?
sure, man. There you go.
Trial version.
Okay, now here in the chat, we have just 4 students.
Trial version.
Well, more students: Santiago Aldana, Diego Giraldo, Christian Death, I think, Carol Gordillo,
version.
Camilo Andrés Amaya, Vanessa Herrera, Yerli Garcia, Laura Daniela, Daniel Rojas. Okay, I'm gonna wait 2 more minutes
Trial version.
just to see if some other students can get connected.
Trial version.
So just give me a moment there.
Trial version. Trial version.
Okay, could you please confirm whether you can hear me well before I start with the explanation and everything?
Trial version. Trial version. Trial version.
Can you hear me well? Okay,
Trial
so let's
version.
get started. The idea is that we are going to start with the planning section
Trial version.
of negotiating. So that's the idea. Here I have prepared some material for you to see
Trial
it,
version.
since I don't have any access to a board, a digital board today. So
Trial version.
here we have what we are going to use. So give me a moment. Okay, so
Trial version.
here we have what we need to take into account when preparing the negotiation process. So there are some
Trial
aspects
version.
here very relevant that we need to consider when having these kind of interactions with people from other countries.
Trial version.
Well, firstly, there are 6 different tips that we need to take into account before we start the negotiation
Trial
process.
version.
So this is all about planning the negotiation process. So we have the first one, and in this section, in
Trial
this
version.
item, we are going to talk about the information that we need to know about the situation. So you need to investigate
Trial
culture,
version.
you need to investigate etiquette, and then negotiation styles. Now, if you pretend
Trial
that
version.
other countries in the world have our same culture, that's a big mistake. So that's why we need to
Trial version.
search something about the way they are used to negotiate, the way they behave in this kind of environment.
Trial version.
In some countries like India, for example, people don't like to be touched by other people. So in that case,
Trial
we
version.
need to know these etiquette procedures. The negotiation styles are also
Trial
different
version.
from country to country, so we are going to talk about this part in detail in a moment.
Trial version.
Okay, let's continue with this. So in the next section, we have work out your initial bargaining position.
Trial
In
version.
this item, you need to include what are your needs, what your needs are, what your objectives are, as well as your priorities. Now, you have to plan ahead the objectives that you want to get from
Trial
that
version.
negotiating meeting. the amount of money that you want to spend,
Trial version.
the distribution process, who is going to assume expenses of distribution and all that part. So
Trial
here we
version.
have, when negotiations begin, do not improvise. A common mistake in that, in this kind of sections is that people sometimes improvise, and when they improvise, they don't offer the best possibilities. Okay. Well,
Trial
here I have
version.
some comments in the chat. Well, please, as
Trial version.
Vanessa said, I think it was Vanessa, or Santiago,
Trial version.
you need to access from other Gmail account, or you can open the incognito window, so you will have access without any problem, without
Trial
any
version.
difficulty. Okay, let's continue with this. As I was saying some minutes ago, we need to plan what are the objectives that we have, what are the priorities that as a company we want to make clear in the negotiating process.
Trial version.
Okay, so here we have some more tips, some more items that we need to take into account. The next is section C, or item C, and here we have try to estimate the needs and objectives of the other
Trial
side.
version.
Here it is like a flexible matter, a matter of flexibility. Sometimes you can win by being flexible. So maybe you have some specific objectives and you have some priorities, but in some cases it is important, relevant to listen to the other negotiators, to the other part, so you can find out in what items you can be more flexible, and in that order of ideas win in some aspects. So if you are so rigid, maybe you can lose the possibility to make business with that company. Okay, so the next
trial version
item that we have right here is D, and this is kind of related to what I was talking some minutes ago. And it is about flexibility one more time. We need to take into account that it is a negotiating process, and it includes two parts, two sides. We cannot be so rigid because, of course, the other company also has some important priorities, some important and relevant objectives that they also want to meet. So for that reason, the idea is to have good and fluent communication. So here in the next item, we have prepared a fallback position. And what is a fallback position? It is a position in which you can be flexible in some aspects, so the other company can also get some benefits. So it is about the conditions that you will accept if your original objectives are not met. So in this case,
trial version,
we talk about aspects like distribution, price, maybe the package, the packages that we are going to use to send that merchandise. If we are talking about international business, we also talk about the amount of days this is going to last, you know. So if chip, a board, is going to be brought from China or from Europe, we need to consider
Trial
how
version.
much time it is going to last, you know. So these things
Trial
are
version.
important to be taken into account. For all those students who haven't had the possibility to access to the
version.
live streaming, remember that this is going to be available in YouTube, and you can have access to it at any time you want.
Trial
And
version.
in some minutes, I'm going to socialize this information again in Google Meet, okay?
Trial version.
So this is all about item B. Then we have the next one, which is E.
Trial
If
version.
you are in a position to influence the choice of venue, remember that venue is a place, and it is the place
Trial
in which
version.
you give the conference, or when the place that you use to negotiate as well. So if you have the influence, if you
Trial
have
version.
like the opportunity to if you are the one with the possibility to
version.
choose the place, then it is something that you have in favor, and we might take advantage of it.
Trial version.
So here we have different types of venue. So the first possibility is to play
Trial
in
version.
your own ground or home ground. That is the way we call it when we are talking about your office, in the case you have
Trial version.
one, your building, your own offices or your own
Trial
ground.
version.
We also have other types like this one. Go to their ground, go to their office, just in case you don't have your
Trial
own
version.
building or your own office. And if you are starting yourself as a business
Trial
person,
version.
so it is always a good idea to go to their ground in order to negotiate. But there is another possibility that is also appropriate
Trial version.
if you don't want to feel under pressure and you want to have a more relaxed and neutral environment.
Trial
So here we
version.
have this other possibility in which you meet that other company in a neutral ground. It can be a
Trial version.
hotel, a rented venue. So we have to take this thing I wrote for you into account. Plan this ahead
Trial
in
version.
each negotiation. The amount of time that you need to move from one place to another.
Trial
We
version.
have talked about this before. So in that case, you need to consider how much time you need in order to
Trial
get
version.
to that place, how much money you need if you are in charge of
Trial
taking
version.
people from one place and drop them out in another, drop them off, sorry, in another, in the place you are
Trial
supposed
version.
to meet. No? So it is important that you plan this with anticipation, so difficulties and issues can be
Trial
as
version.
minimized as possible. Okay, so here we have
Trial version.
this part. So if negotiating, if you are negotiating as part of a team, discuss the previous items with your colleagues, so you get a solid team. This is important. I'm going to read it again
Trial
for you
version.
to take it into account and don't forget it. If you are negotiating as a part of a team, discuss it with
Trial
your
version.
colleagues, with the members of your team, so you can become a solid and well experienced
Trial version.
teamwork. Okay. Some of the most common difficulties that some
Trial
companies have is that they don't work as a team. They like to do things in a separate way. And when things are
Trial
done
version.
in that manner, a lot of mistakes can be done, you know? So for that reason, my advice is that you trust
Trial
on your
version.
team. That if you have a developer, if you have a programmer, if you have even the mailman, or
Trial
the
version.
postman, if you have a secretary, you have to act as a solid group. So the other company can also notice
Trial
that you
version.
are working in a professional way, that you are not improvising, that you are a company that can be considered reliable,
version.
a reliable one. So they can rely on you in order to make business. Especially if we are talking about a lot of million
Trial version.
or $1 million, million pesos, or something like that. So companies are not going to trust on other companies that
Trial
act
version.
in a separate way, that they don't have, like, if they talk to one person, they will obtain one perspective.
Trial
But
version.
if they go to another person, then things are gonna be different. So we have to speak with the same language, you know?
Trial version.
We have to speak in the same way. Okay, now this is all about the tips that you need to take into account when planning
Trial version.
your negotiation process. So here I'm
Trial
going
version.
to let you know again. So here we have preparing the negotiation process. Sorry. So first,
Trial version.
get as much information as you can about the culture, etiquette, and the negotiation styles. We are going to talk about these in a moment.
Trial version.
Work out your initial bargaining position. So you have to have total clarity about the needs, objectives, priorities.
Trial version.
And when the negotiations begin, do not improvise. Then we have C. Try to estimate the needs and
Trial
objectives
version.
of the other side. So you can find out what their objectives are and what are their priorities are.
Trial version.
D. Prepare a fallback position just in case it is necessary. You have to have a plan B. The conditions that you will accept if
Trial
your
version.
original objectives are not met. Okay. Then we have E. You know, if you are
Trial
in a
version.
position to influence the choice of venue, it is advisable that you do it. So if you have the possibility to choose your own ground,
version.
your own office, it is absolutely advisable that you do it. We also have the possibility to make business
Trial
in their
version.
ground, just in case you don't count on an office. But if you feel it would be a better idea to
Trial
work
version.
in a neutral ground, some of the options that you have are a hotel, a rented venue, a conference room, or something
Trial
like
version.
that. So you have to plan this ahead before the day of the negotiation
Trial
process
version.
takes place. Okay. Communicate with your colleagues. Communicate with your
Trial
group,
version.
so you can become in a solid negotiating
Trial version.
agency or company. You know. Now we are going to talk about the negotiating scenario, what we need
Trial version.
to know about
Hola
different
chicos, buenas noches.
scenarios.
Disculpen, estamos haciendo algo, esperando al profe.
Give me a moment, I have a question
Trial
in the
version.
other chat, so I'm going to answer it. So just a moment.
Estamos en la línea.
Hola Lina, ¿cómo estás?
Trial
Estamos
version.
haciendo en vivo.
So I
Mira el en
have
vivo que está ahí
shared
en
the
el
link
chat.
again. So this is the link.
Estamos en
Trial
YouTube.
version.
Gracias, qué pena.
Okay. Do not worry, it happens. So let's continue.
Trial version.
Okay. Give me a moment. Now, when we talk about a
Trial version.
negotiating scenario, we also talk about the atmosphere that we can generate, how we can make the
Trial
other
version.
party feel comfortable, so they can feel relaxed and they can start talking with confidence.
Trial
They don't
version.
feel under pressure. They don't feel like the atmosphere is heavy and they cannot communicate fluently. So I'm
Trial
going to give
version.
you some of the tips that you need to know when creating this kind of negotiation atmospheres.
Trial version.
So let's take a look to some of the things I have prepared for you. So number one, meet and
Trial
greet
version.
representative of the other company. Introduce your colleagues, introduce your team. Now, what
Trial
is
version.
very common in some cases is that there is very arrogant people.
Trial version.
They don't greet the others, they are not polite, they are not educated. And the other party, we call party
Trial version.
to the other company or the company
Mira el en vivo que está ahí
involved,
en el chat.
the company involved in the
Trial
Estamos en
version.
YouTube.
Gracias, qué pena.
negotiation process. So it is important that you meet and you
Trial
greet
version.
the other representatives and you make them feel comfortable, you know. And of course, you need to introduce your
Trial
team.
version.
You can become a leader in that part, and you can take the initiative and break that ice,
Trial
so
version.
the others can feel like they can talk to you, they can communicate, and they can mention what their objectives and
Trial
intentions are. Okay, so let's continue. Here we have
Trial
number
version.
2. This is something that might be optional. Offer coffee or any other drink.
Trial version.
It really depends on the first section, in which you find out about their culture.
Trial version.
An example of this is that if you are negotiating with a company from China, maybe you can offer tea. Or if you are negotiating
version.
with a company from the United States, maybe you can offer coffee. It is, subjective.
Trial
It is
version.
relative. You can also offer alcohol like beer, wine, whiskey, depending on the time of the day you are and depending
version.
on the etiquette they have. Some companies, some negotiators are really relaxed and they enjoy drinking alcohol when talking about
Trial
business.
version.
Make a small talk. This is relevant. I mean, you cannot be, you cannot behave with that rigid personality
version.
because we are not robots. We are humans. Now, when I say make a small talk, is that you offer a
Trial
good
version.
conversation, that you create a good conversation. And I know this is not something easy to
Trial
do,
version.
but in class next week we are going to be talking about some very good conversation starters. Okay,
Trial
some
version.
good conversation starters that we can use in order to have good small talks.
Trial version.
Okay, so the idea, the objective here is to create or generate a relaxed atmosphere so people
Trial
can
version.
feel comfortable. Okay, the next part, have a clear agenda and timetable, and please stick
Trial
to
version.
it. Do not assume that the other people are going to have a lot of time. Don't play with people's time.
Trial version.
That's important. That's relevant. Now, in some cases, people can
Trial
feel
version.
offended if you play with their time. If you don't stick to the agenda, then they
Trial
can
version.
leave the reunion, the meeting, and they can get that attitude in which they don't want to continue
Trial version.
negotiating with you. Now, in our culture, in a Colombian culture, we tend to be impunctual, but in some other
Trial
countries, this
version.
is not like that. They behave in a different way. So when doing this kind of important and relevant kind of
Trial
meeting
version.
and you want to negotiate something important, please be punctual. So I know that's something we all fail at.
Trial version.
Well, especially in my case, I'm sometimes very impunctual. Okay, so let's
Trial
continue.
version.
So here we have number 4. Before you start, give the background to the negotiations. Now, what is a
Trial
background? A synonym for background can be origin. So background is the same as origin,
Trial version.
like the issues, the problems, the things, the offers that you might have.
Trial version.
So the background is the origin of the business or the thing that you are negotiating. So remind the key
Trial
facts
version.
and issues. For example, if you are importing or exporting products, then you need to talk. You might need to talk about
Trial version.
prices, distribution process, or things like those. Okay. And finally, we have
Trial version.
number 5. So it's time to kick off. Now it's time to start the conversation, the business
Trial
conversation
version.
as well, to start the negotiation. So a good way to do so is by finding out the priorities of the
Trial
other
version.
side. So you can identify what their needs are, what are the objectives they want
Trial
to meet,
version.
so you can have a win-to-win negotiating process, you know. That is something that we are going to talk
Trial
about
version.
in the other week. We are going to talk about the kinds of negotiation, the kinds of negotiations that we have. Okay. And well, we also need to talk about the negotiation styles, as I
Trial
already
version.
said. Okay, so give me just a second and I will show you that. So the negotiating
version.
styles. As I already said, culture is something relevant, is a key factor in this section. Okay.
Trial version.
So here we have the most common. It is important to say that they are the most common negotiating styles, body language. Now, when we talk about body language, we talk about the way we communicate with our body. Here in Colombia, we tend to use our hands, we tend to use our body, we make gestures, we shrunk, maybe we stare directly to the other people, and that might be rude in other cultures. So brief investigation about that is always a good idea. Okay. The next is physical contact. As I already said, there are some countries in which they don't like to shake hands. They don't have that physical contact because they feel uncomfortable with it. So in those cases, just to give you an example, in countries like China, they make venue, so it means that they don't touch each other. The conversational rules, the etiquette in order to ask the word, so it is important that you don't interrupt someone, that you don't become an annoying person, the kind of person that don't let the others speak, the kind of person that is, annoying, disgusting. So in these kind of businesses, in this kind of international meetings, we need to be respectful with the way we communicate. If you want to say something, then you need to raise your hand, or maybe you need to wait until the end of the meeting, or at least until the end of the presentation. It really depends on the organization that you have, on the brochure that you were given, and the planification process. Okay, the next part that we have is all about relationships building. This has to do with hierarchy. So when talking about relationship buildings, we also need to take into account whether they like to be touched, like when shaking hands, if it is appropriate to use the first name, or it is important to mention the profession, the title they have, or you can simply refer to them by using their first name. Apart from that, we also have the hierarchy. In some cases, you need to take into account the role you have. Because as we discussed yesterday, if you have an inferior role, probably some people are not going to hear you. So you are not going to be heard if you have a low position. And that might be sad, but it's something we need to take into account. And finally, we have the attitude to time. In this part, we have the kind of culture that people have towards time. Whether they are flexible with impunctual people, whether they have how they react when people are not punctual, whether they like to have breaks or they don't, Well, having said that, it's time to practice. Now I'm going to wait for you at the other room at Meet to continue with the class. I apologize for the resolution for the video because it was kind of slow, but I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen again. Okay, so see you in the other room.
Trial version. Trial version.